Well, here it is! The long-awaited sequel to the hot takes are here. Today, I picked 11 more of your guys' hottest takes on Animatic Battle, and I'll be here to discuss them. Of course, do not take it personally if you didn't make it into the video, as we got 384 responses, which is a ton more than last time. Anyhow, let me know what you agree and disagree with in the comments, and keep it civil of course. So with that being said, let's jump into it! Ornery Lizard says, I would say that Doorframe doesn't really deserve his support that much. It's mainly because the other characters on his team felt more interesting than him, so people saying that he was robbed, I think it's kinda far-fetched. You know, you would actually be surprised to see that there's a decent amount of people who don't really care for Doorframe, and even further, I would actually see why you might not support him that much. For one, some find him quite bland, which while I don't think that's true, I can definitely see where you're coming from. And you have to admit that Doorframe doesn't really have too much of a personality, and while he definitely does things, he's just kind of there with the other characters. I still think he does deserve his support, but if you really don't find Doorframe that interesting, I could totally see why. Cheesa says, Chocolate Milk Carton is the most well-written Animatic Battle character. They act as a foil for the entire cast in a very unique and interesting way, which allows for the story to take a new, more genuine and heartfelt direction every time they're on screen. They also have some incredible lines that really elevate the story, like, we can't really control that, but we can learn to roll with the punches. Letting the waves of the world crash over you is easier than learning to surf. To be honest, there's been an uprising in CMC fans, and I'm all here for it. I do think there are some better written characters in the show, but you can make a solid argument as to why you think Milk Carton is the best character in terms of writing and dialogue. Some brush off their lines and what they say, just like most other characters, but if you really paid attention to what Chocolate Milk Carton says, then you would know how good some of their lines are. Because of that, I personally think they're the best neutral character in the show, and I'm glad that Milk Carton is starting to get loads of fans. Tumpai says, I don't really like Acid in episode 2 and 3. In episode 1 he was a lot smarter, rational, and logical. I prefer him that way. This is also why I don't really like his new voice. Since episode 2, I feel like they changed his personality to fit the new voice. So I talked about Acid's voice in the last hot take video, so I'm mostly going to focus on the first part. I think you could definitely tell a difference in Acid compared to the first episode of AB and the Acid we have now. I mean, in episode 1 he was doing experiments with do and don't and was telling Nacho about what things his acid could be used for. Then in the following episode he tries to make a salt circle to escape Animatic. Can you tell a difference here? I enjoy the old and new Acid, but not to be mean, I think you can tell Acid has gotten a lot more stupider, and as the responder said, less irrational. A ton of people will still enjoy Acid though, and I think he'll still stay loved by the community for a very long time. Astra BFDI says, I think P sucks. I'm surprised a lot of people like P. Sure, he can be funny, but he's also weirdly bossy, and I just really don't like P. Sorry to all the P lovers out there, but it's just my opinion. So, there are a few P haters on the forum, which I was super surprised to see, because I thought everyone liked P, but I guess not. I think it all really comes down to the fact that P is a small angry character, and a ton of fans like yours truly love characters like that. The bossiness could be a deal breaker for many though, as I know tons of people hate bossy characters such as Golf Ball and P. P will always be special to mine and fans' hearts though. I could see why you might not enjoy characters like P or him in general though. XN says, Raid and Red Sticky Hand have the most interesting friendship / dynamic in AB right now, and they're probably going to end up being two of the most compelling characters in the show. It is clear that what there is between them with Red Sticky Hand and being Raid's idol is leading up to an arc where Raid will have to stop relying on him for everything and think for himself more, which I think will be very interesting and cool to see. A lot of people have said that their friendship is just loser and cake again, but I think it is much more interesting than that, and that's why they're some of my favorite characters right now. And to put it short, yeah, I mostly agree with this. I personally think that they aren't the most interesting dynamic in the show right now, as I need to see a bit more of Sticky Hand myself, but I believe that they'll definitely have a good chance to be. I was already a huge fan of the Raid scene in episode 3, but I would kill for a Raid arc. His character has so much potential, and I hope the Animatic Battle team uses it to its fullest extent. I've said this many times on my channel, but I'm so glad that Raid is starting to become less hated and starting to be well rated, as people just didn't give him a chance from the start. Unfunny Bill says, Silly Straw deserves more love. He's a really awesome character in my opinion, plus the post-credit scene in AB1 and the beginning of AB2 are great assets for a potential arc. I said this before and I'll say again, a self-improvement arc for Silly Straw could be great, The arc could probably be about Silly Straw going back to the place he went in AB 1 and 2 and gaining the courage to help in challenges. Maybe he'll get the Notepad treatment where he has a whole scene that would make people love him. I would say that Silly Straw is not the best character, but he could hugely benefit if he got a scene or an arc, as he's one of the least talked about characters in the show, which is a darn shame. A Silly Straw arc or scene I wouldn't expect, but I would always welcome it in my opinion, and that goes for any character, except Peppermint obviously. I think that on the off chance that he survives episode 4, even though it's most likely not to leave him, it could be a wake up call to the writers to finally do something with him, such as making him go to the place he was at the start of AB2, or maybe just making amends with Jedge. Logan Holiday says, I really like the replacement exclamation mark in episode 3. All he did was frolic and hopscotch, and people hated him. Yeah, so I wasn't really the biggest fan of the red exclamation mark in episode 3. It was mostly because he was just so off-putting and canny to me, but I didn't know that most people don't like him that much either. I think it's just because, like I just said, they were very uncanny, but I also think that people just wanted the normal one back as well. I don't have much else to say here, but I do know there are a decent amount of people who do like the new one. A Yellow Pikmin says, Papaya is an awful team. It barely feels like they have any sense of dynamic, and some of the members on that team barely get any screen time, such as Pancake Batter, Shattered Ornament, and Shoe, which is pretty shocking considering Animatic Battle is usually amazing at balancing screen time. It feels like a team of misfits, but not like Object 4 or the Meatballs. Instead, it just feels like the team where everyone on the AB crew didn't know what to do with them, and they were just put on a team. I hope they get better because I like every member on the team, despite none of them being above B tier. So while I wouldn't go as far as to say Papaya is awful, they definitely are one of the weakest teams right now. They haven't gotten a ton of screen time compared to teams like Diet, Benjamin, or the Meatballs, and we don't really see their members interact too much. I think Exclamation Mark, Popcorn, and Mini Disky are saving the team from being the weakest one, just above Grant Swag in my opinion. But yeah, now that I think about it, the team just has a ton of random people such as Shattered Ornament and Shoe, and as the responder said, lots of misfits but not in a good way like Object Fool. Hopefully they can get a really big part in an episode like Grant Swag and Diet in episode 3, since we haven't really gotten to see the dynamic of Papaya yet. Grai, sorry if I pronounced that wrong by the way, says, Nacho is genuinely robbed. He's very likely to get out soon, and he has literally done nothing except die in episode 3 and start staring contests in episode 1. It sucks because there could have been a lot more done with him, and his design is fantastic. So while they agree that his design is fantastic, because it's definitely a top tier asset in my opinion, I disagree with this to be honest. I don't think Nacho's going to be robbed like the others that have been eliminated. I said this in my episode 4 prediction, but Nacho has had so many opportunities to have a good chunk of screen time, but he still has done nothing significant to the show, which is why I don't think he's robbed all that much. I think people will start to miss him if he's out, but I'm sorry, I won't really. I'm sorry Nacho fans, but I just don't care for him, and unless he does something big, I don't think that opinion will change. AJob10 says, Gapple's overrated as heck. Bro's a literal pick-me. I find him unfunny and idiotic. Like in AB2, he thought running in circles was going to prevent Animatic from killing him, and thought people were going to praise him for drawing someone in AB3. I don't have anything bad to say about Gapple in AB1. Gapple gets far too much love in AB. So yeah, we have a huge hater of Golden Apple on our hands, but the responders should be surprised to hear that Golden Apple actually gets quite a bit more hate than they may think. I wouldn't say he's too overrated, but more or less controversial and split on. I really can see why you might not like a character like Golden Apple, as he's just so full of himself and definitely thinks they're better than others. But I think he's great and I've liked him from the start. I definitely know Gapple is starting to get on people's nerves though. And for our final take today, Wayward Man says, Cheesa is, in my opinion, the worst character in the entire show. I could go as far as to say that Buddy Cup Boy is better than him. Sure, he has an occasionally funny moment, but just like Buddy Cup Boy, he barely, if ever, contributes to the challenges or interacts with other characters. At least Buddy Cup Boy tried to warn Acid about Animatic coming, even though he failed at that. I seriously cannot name anything Cheesa has done that was even remotely helpful. Wow, that was ruthless. Although the responder does have a point about him not being helpful in challenges, I think people just like Cheesa because he's funny and hyper while not ruining the plot or ruining challenges in the process. I'm glad that the writers took that route, as I think he'd be a lot more hated if he was like that. I still definitely love Cheesa, but I know he's not for everyone. He can be a tad overwhelming at times, and I know some 100% find him annoying. But I can agree to disagree. If you hate Cheesa, that's fine. However, I and many others will continue to love the most energetic character so long as the series goes. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Did you enjoy the long-awaited sequel to the hot takes? Let me know in the comments. I won't do another hot takes video for quite a while, but I'm thinking maybe doing a BFDI takes next. Anyhow, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and of course, thanks for watching.